taking that time to purify ourselves is the most important work we do for, obviously, ourselves, but in a somewhat unintuitive way. It's the most important work we do for anyone or any group we care about. All right, we are back with another reflection on the daily Vedantic. Yesterday, I did a reflection on, the episode was on a Swami story from the first time that I met him, the first day that I met him. And I figured I'd do one or two more stories for the daily reflections on this podcast. The second story that comes to mind, as equally as powerful as the one that I recounted yesterday, was in my second meal with Swami. And I had had lunch with him. Then I was invited back to grab dinner with him and a few others later that day. My first day outside of quarantine and my 8th day in India. This was during COVID, so 4 years ago. And a little over 4.5 years ago. And in my second meal, this is, again, 6 years into studying each day. About, at this point, 8-9 years of deep inquiry into myself and Eastern philosophy. But 6 years into, instead of going a mile wide, going a mile deep into Advaita Vedanta, when I thought I would just spend a year, told myself I'm going to spend a year going deep into this philosophy. It's the one that spoke to me more than any other. And here we are. Now it's been a total of, about a decade. But 6 years in, I'm going to the ashram thinking I'm going to say these, or at least trying to curate the things that I say to be smart, sharp, noble phrases. Some of them were rooted in the higher, but so much of it, it's just the ego when I look back. So I imagine many of these reflections and episodes, I'll have the same perspective years from now. But what happened was we were grabbing dinner we were seated at the same table that we had had lunch at. And one of these just offhand questions that I lobbed into the dinner conversation was, Swami, how can I serve the ashram? It's a place. His philosophy is, at that point, nearly 100 years of dedication, 60 years of professionally expounding on this philosophy. I wanted to see if there's anything that I could do to help. It has and continues to give me so much that it just felt natural to ask, where can this industrious American young buck help with this smallish Indian organization? And he said, you can't serve the ashram. Just purify yourself. So unexpected. In a world, my undergrad degree is in development economics, and working in the nonprofit space for 2 years out of college, growing up in and around Western nonprofits. I was just growing up in Catholic church, where if you ask to serve, it's like, oh, well, there's 13 jobs that we're trying to get volunteers for. There is this goal in which you could be an instrument towards. And so I thought, well, I've got something to offer that surely will be useful to this organization. And it never occurred to me that someone would say, you can't serve it. It's even funny to imagine right now just how much of a unexpected stiff arm that I received in thinking that I was orienting towards the higher, towards service. But really, that's such a place of ego of, hey, I've been here 6 minutes. How can I lend my own judgment, analysis, capacities to help you all and help your work. So that first part, you can't serve the ashram. That's just so funny to think about. But the second part is so rich, so timeless of the most important work we do for others is the work we do on ourselves. That is the way that we help anyone, anything, any organization around us. It's the work we do on ourselves. And until we purify ourselves, everything we touch, Midas, everything we touch, as Swami will say often, unwise actions destroy worlds. Do something unwise, which is so much of our action, our attempts at goodness can and often does destroy the very thing we think we're helping. Oftentimes it's our ego that protects us from even thinking that we could have a negative impact. Parents that are overburdening children, that give them unnecessary, undue supervision or give them terrible examples. The terrible examples that the children unconsciously just start to follow. The words we give to friends when they're going through something tough and it comes from an exhaustion of hearing about their problems or a stress we have in our own lives to get the problem away from us, and you say the wrong thing and it ends up making their problems worse instead of better. It's like Ram Dass would say, it's like going up to people playing chess. Instead of understanding the game, you start moving pieces around. That's us in our lives, in our communities. With the organizations that we've been on the ground of for a few days and we think we can improve. Taking that time to understand the game. Taking that time to purify ourselves. It is the most important work we do for, obviously, ourselves, but in a somewhat unintuitive way. That's the most important work we do for anyone or any group we care about. This philosophy, there are so many fascinating concepts, but then it's natural to find yourself with this question of, what do I do? But what do I do with this knowledge? What do I do as a practice? And there are the 3 daily practices of question everything, don't take anything for granted, and study and reflect every day. There are those 3 daily practices. But what are you doing with those 3 daily practices? It is as simple as it is profound. You are purifying yourself. And when we do that, we serve everyone around us. That is today's reflection on the Daily Vedantic. We'll see you next time.